To meet the demands of their customers, banks get cash from Federal Reserve banks. Most medium and large-sized banks maintain reserve accounts at one of the 12 regional Federal Reserve banks, and they pay for the cash they get from the Fed by having those accounts debited. Some smaller banks maintain the required reserves at larger correspondent banks. The smaller banks get cash to the correspondent bank, which charge a fee for the service. The larger banks get currency from the Fed and pass it on to the smaller banks. Who decides? The consumer ultimately decides. When the public's demand for cash declines after the holiday season, for example, banks find they have more cash than they need and they deposit the excess at the Fed because banks pay the Fed for cash by having their reserve accounts debited. The level of reserves in the nation's banking system drops when the public's demand for cash rises. Similarly, the level rises again when the public's demand for cash subsides and banks ship cash back to the Fed. The Fed offsets variations in the public's demand for cash that could introduce volatility into the credit markets by implementing open market operations. Maintaining a cash inventory. Each of the 12 reserve banks keeps an inventory of cash on hand to meet the needs of the depository institution in its district. Extended custodial inventory sites on several continents promote the use of U.S. currency internationally, improve the collection of information on currency flows, and help local banks meet the public's demand for U.S. currency. Additions to that supply come directly from two divisions of the Treasury Department that produce the cash: the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which prints the currency, and the United States Mint, which makes coins. Most of the inventory consists of deposits by banks that had more cash than they needed to serve their customers and deposited the excess at the Fed to help meet their reserve requirements. The Federal Reserve is the central banking system of the U.S. The Federal Reserve conducts the nation's monetary policy that supervises, regulates banking institutions, and maintains the financial system providing financial services to depository institutions, U.S. government and foreign official institutions. Federal Reserve System is created by appointed Board of Governors who is appointed by the President. They are the Federal Open Market Committee. This committee sets monetary policy, and 7 of the 12 board members can vote. This committee serves the public and private bankers. Their decisions do not have to be approved by the President or anyone else in the executive or legislative branches of government. The U.S. government gets the profits after a statutory dividend of 6%. Who decides financial distribution at the global level? It is the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The IMF is the International Monetary Fund, and it is an organization of 187 countries working to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, and facilitate international trade, promote high employment and sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty around the world. Then we have the World Bank. It tends to be parts of the IMF that have conducted good services and then are admitted into the World Bank. They're under the IBIRD Articles of Agreement, and they must first join the International Monetary Fund to become members. In conclusion, there is a type of hierarchy in the distribution of funds throughout the world. In the USA, we adhere to the Federal Reserve, and they depend on supply and demand for their distribution. At the world level, there is the IMF, who vote on where to distribute finances. And then the elite part of the IMF members are admitted into the World Bank to decide further on the distribution of wealth in the world.